Good evening, you're watching Profit Audio. My name's Julien, and in today's episode, I'm gonna be showing you guys some sound design techniques to recreate background and atmos sounds, whether it's a video game or an animation or a short film, and you want to create something that's a bit abstract and a bit out of this world. Well, here it is. I made 3 different locations for you guys to explore. The first one is called the Space Hangar. I tried to make this sound a bit like we're in sort of an off-world aircraft carrier type of location. Let's check it out. Yeah, a really cool sound. I've made this using 2 layers, a top layer and a bottom layer. The second sound I've created reminds me of an alien spaceship, almost like if you were abducted and you just woke up somewhere that doesn't sound too friendly. Well, here it is. I really like this sound. It sounds really tough and strong. Again, I have 2 layers, the top and the bottom layer. And a third sound reminds me of being lost somewhere on a random planet. This sound has this eerie atmospherical vibe to it, which really fits really well. So here are 3 sounds. The first one sounds like this. I'm basically using 2 different waveforms. This BSOD square that you can find. What I've done here is I've set the unison to have some of the sounds be a bit more stereo and fluctuating around our ears, while I also used a noise oscillator. Those 3 sounds are all going through the filter, and I'm cutting off the high frequencies there. The way I've made this sound is using an LFO on the pitch value and also on this band value. So across 4 bars, we're having the sound really moving onto itself, and as always, you have to make the starting and the end position of the LFO be the same so that when it comes back to the first bar and the first hit, there's no gap difference between where the sound is at the end of the 4 bars and where it is at the start. If you make it the same, it just flows back onto itself. So this is basically what I've done for this sound. I've also put a dimension to widen it up. I always put the size to 0 and the mix to 0. You don't really need those. You only need the first mix button to be up, and that basically widens it up without adding this chorus effect to it. For that, I wanted to put a real chorus effect onto it, and what I did is I set the feedback so that it gives this washy feeling to the top layer. I've also put a compressor to boost it up, and I've cut some of the low frequencies, and I've put like a little dent where I felt that the sound was resonating a little bit too much. For the bottom layer, I have used the same 4088 waveform, but this time I've put a different filter that allows the resonance of this filter to really shape the sound we want. And I'm also using the same Serum waveform for oscillator A. You gotta put the unison higher, and I've basically left it how it is. I've just put the band plus option there to have the sound banding onto itself. As you can see, it's just an LFO over 4 bars. You're changing the parameters over time so that it goes in and out using the shape of this LFO. I've put a noise oscillator as well called wind chimes from the organic section, and I'm pitching this up and down as well. I like to do this to those noise sounds because it really adds a different type of layer that I could not get with the normal waveforms. This sound, I've also widened it up, put the same chorus. I cut some of the high frequencies and the lower frequencies to really tame this sound. And I've also cut the higher frequencies using another filter because we already have a top layer. Alright, next sound. I have a top layer that's using this light metal spectral wave, as well as an EA waveform that's in the vowel section. I basically left this first oscillator on 1 unison, but the other one is on 7, and that's what's doing all the more stereo sounds. I've also put 1 LFO on the cutoff to open it over 4 bars slowly, and this is also affecting the band option and the wavetable position. I think this is really giving it more life. I have widened it up. I put some distortion to re-thicken it, some delay as well. The delay gives that washy feeling to this top layer, which is what we want. And I've also added reverb, a bit of compression, and I've also cut the lower frequencies. The bottom layer is using the same IE waveform, but I also put a sine wave there. I basically put the sine wave there to have some more sub while having the same other wave being affected. It's actually the sine wave that's giving a lot of that eerie layer to this sound. And I've put some distortion to really thicken up that layer. And I've boosted the higher frequencies there so that the grindiness comes out more. And on LFO 1, I'm just slowly opening the cutoff filter with this LFO number 1. Our last sound is the Lonely Planet sound. Our top layer, I use a squelchy FM1 waveform from the spectral category, and again the BSOD square waveform. Put the unison up, and I've also put the phase and the randomness down. That allows you to align waveforms better and not have a phase issue with it. So I recommend doing that. I've also set the first wave to have the sync option and the sync window half option on the other one. Using this first waveform, I'm opening and closing the levels so that we can have some sort of a better flow with the layers of sounds coming in. And I have also put an LFO on the sync option of the square waveform. It's just allowing it to fluctuate within itself. Whereas LFO 3 here, it's doing the same thing but over 8 bars. The same thing over 8 bars, but it's affecting the sync and the wavetable position of the first waveform. Again, effects wise, I have widened it up, some distortion with diode 2 this time, some delay again for this top layer, compression, a little bit of reverb, and I cut off the low frequencies and boosted the highs. Our last layer here is the deeper layer of this sound. I'm using a Risi Mesh 2 spectral wave and the same square BSOD square waveform. Unison is set on 4, still the phase and random to 0. You don't always have to do that, but sometimes I find that I can make a cleaner sound if I have those set that way. The LFO 1 is again playing with the levels of those sounds to prevent them from coming in too fast. It's slowly bringing this layer over 8 bars. That's the only LFO I have. I just used the filter as well to cut off some of those high frequencies, but otherwise I widened it up, cut off more lows and some of those highs, and I reduced those highs even more with another filter to really only have the frequencies I want. The way I can mix those sounds or elements better is using what's called neo-compression. It's a form of parallel compression that I put on a return bus. And basically when you apply this onto your sounds, it's almost like adding a compressed layer of high and low frequencies within the sound, and I think it really gives it more texture. Let's hear it with and without. As you can tell, it really adds more punch to the sounds, so it's a really good trick that you guys should try out for your own projects. Or even if you're having trouble mixing, try and get the peaks to stay low, but then add the parallel compression over it. That's basically how I do it. Thank you so much for watching Prophet Audio. Today's episode was really fun. I like to get creative with sounds and try and follow a theme, or recreate a certain vibe or atmosphere, and I feel like this episode is really giving you some tools for you to get creative and try things out. So go on and just keep experimenting until you find the right sound for you. But for now, I'll catch you next week. Please like and subscribe. We're only starting, but we've already got a lot of content, so I hope you watch all the other videos, and I'll catch you guys next time. Take care.